Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blend the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight is not Drew Crawley, who's on assignment. Filling in for Drew most capably is our good friend, Alan Bishop. Alan, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for joining us tonight and sitting in for Drew. And we've got, I think, a really fun show, really different show for us. We are truly blending the love of music with the love of whiskey tonight, as we have with us a couple of musicians, bass players from bands that I know here in the region that are fantastic. And we actually have one of the foremost, if not the most foremost blender in the world, Nancy Fraley, with us. But we'll introduce them in just 1 minute. But first, we want to tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiast in you. Alan, you've got like 3 shows on here, so why don't you tell us about yours?
Yeah, because it totally doesn't sound like Billy Mays just being like, but wait, there's more. So first up is Distillers Talk, which is myself and Christy Atkinson. We've been doing that show for several years now, and that is a show where we bring on distillers or distilling adjacent folks, and we talk about the art of distilling in depth and as geeky as what we possibly can. Everything from home distillers to craft distillers to large industrial producers and all across the world. Secondarily is the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube, where I answer your questions about distillation, whether or not you be an amateur / home distiller and or a professional distiller or someone interested in the art of distillation. And then third, I have the If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything podcast that you can get wherever you get your podcast. And that is a more Fortean, high strangeness, sometimes paranormal and sometimes philosophical show where we really kind of dive into the other side of things, the other side of type of spirits that I'm interested in. And we just restarted that show for season 4. As a matter of fact, tonight when I finish this show, I'll be putting up an interview with Eric Wolf from Stolen Wolf Distillery.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah. Eric's fantastic.
Yeah. It was a good interview for sure.
Yeah. All right. Some of our other shows, My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch, that airs every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. They have wonderful guests. They do special tastings, and it's always fun to hang out with the folks in the chat. Whiskey in My Wedding Ring is the newest member of the Bar Cart Co-op. David Levine is an author and reviewer and podcast host, and he's a really smart guy, very funny guy, clever, dry sense of humor, but he really knows his stuff from a whiskey standpoint. And then, of course, you have our show, Bourbon Turntable. We drop our shows every Wednesday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and YouTube. You can always find the show on the YouTube. So there we go. All
Poor
right.
David,
So,
by the way, so much integrity and potential just wasted joining our group.
yeah,
Poor guy.
Yeah. We'll see if he doesn't like just fade into the back. You know that Homer Simpson video where he just kind of fades back into the shrubs,
into the bushes. Yeah.
I think that's David's got that in his future with us. But all right, enough about us and our stuff. We do appreciate everybody that does listen or share or comment or anything of that nature. But Nancy, welcome back to Bourbon Turntable.
Great to be back.
My almost neighbor growing up, we grew up a town apart and didn't know it, but both hail from East Tennessee, and go Vols.
Yeah, go Vols.
Yep. And Leonard Skinner fans. So we've got a lot in common, Nancy. Of course, I'm just the far lesser talented of us, because you are not only just have great things that you've accomplished within the whiskey industry, you are also a bass player.
True.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So actually, I would say drummer percussionist before that. Getting ready to turn 54, and I've been a drummer since I was 17. So I played in a lot of bands when I was younger on that, and a injury and just kind of older age kind of forced me over to kind of more, the harmony and still rhythm area of life. And so I've been playing bass now for about 20 years. And I'm also a avid collector of both guitars and basses. My oldest goes back to 1958 P bass that you see just over my it'd be my left shoulder, kind of that Mary Kay right there, and the blonde and gold, or with the gold pickguard and such. And I love playing. I love collecting. It's probably my probably even before bourbon. I would have to say it's my biggest passion in life. Yeah, ever since I first saw embarrassing, but when I first saw Hee Haw on a I think it was like 1970 or something, when I was a kid. Anyway.
We all start somewhere.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
all start somewhere. And we have with us my friend Brandon Boomer Purcell, who plays bass for the high energy trio known as Sweet Lady. Known you guys for, I don't know, maybe a little over a year, close to a year and a half, maybe. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, as far as what your history as a bass player and what you do with your band.
So, I mean, currently, of course, I'm in the band Sweet Lady, which I absolutely love. These guys are brothers to me, and I swear if anything happens in this band, I will just quit playing music altogether. But no, my first instrument I ever bought when I was 14 years old was a bass guitar. I bought a Kramer I found in a pawn shop, and I still have it. It still plays, and I still use it, and it's great. But yeah, I mean, it was I think it was Led Zeppelin 4, that album, that got me on my road. I heard that, and I was like, "What is that?" I learned what a bass guitar was, and that was my first instrument. That's what I wanted to play. And then, the grunge scene hit in the '90s, and I went down that road for a while. And then I joined the military when I was 17 and went straight to Germany. So I got over there, and that's the land of metal, and I'm talking like uber metal. So I spent probably a good 9 or 10 years in Germany just playing in crazy metal bands. I mean, just every metal band that needed a bass player, I was like, let's do this. So I have my name's on a lot of weird albums. Let's put it that way.
That's great.
I was there with the birth of Rammstein. Okay. That's how long, came back to the States, and it was a culture shock, because I was in this crazy, uber metal crowd, and I got back here and everything was very low key and very weird. So I had to switch gears, and then all of a sudden I'm playing like prog, alternative, whatever. I don't know. I've done it all. Let's put it that way. And then I did the whole rap rock thing, and the Rage Against the Machine kind of thing, and that wore pretty thin pretty quick. And then I found Sweet Lady, which was my buddy Blue Williams. Him and I played in a band together years ago, and he said, "Man, I'm tired of all this. I just want my trio. I want something easy, something simple. I can have fun." I was like, "I am your man." And that's been that way for almost 2 years now, I think. And it's just, the train's not stopping. It's not slowing. And great time.
Yeah. And you guys this summer did a little mini tour of the region with playing the Tres Hombres album of ZZ Top in honor of the 50th anniversary of that album.
Oh yeah, that was excellent. That was so fun, because diving into just a bass player, just taking one bass player and learning every little nuance. And Dusty Hill, oh my God, I miss that guy so much now. But doing that one album, just note for note, it gave me so much respect for that band. I had a good time.
Yeah. and you guys did a great job with it.
Oh,
It was
thank you.
truly fantastic. I probably saw you guys play that maybe 3 times, and it was always great.
Oddly enough, the hardest part was the vocals. That dude, he can sing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got Andrew. We've had one bass player that started with Hee Haw, and another that started with Led Zeppelin 4. So tell us about how you got started in your life as a bass player.
Sure, yeah. For me, my brother and my dad always played drums, so I always wanted to play with them, and I feel like drums and bass kind of go really well together. I didn't really make the decision until 2 of my friends in middle school, they bought a drum kit and a guitar, and they said, you need to play bass so we can have a band. And I bought one immediately because we were all besties at the time, and I fell in love with it pretty rapidly. I got to play with my dad, my brother, and my best friends all in one, so I didn't really ever look back. I've tried playing other instruments, but I just keep coming back to where that homeland is,
Yeah.
But still loving it today, still playing with my best friends, and
Yep.
so occasionally I get to play with my dad, but it's pretty rare at this point.
And Mojo Thunder is a fantastic band, and you guys got to tour Europe this year, right?
Yeah, worked out really well. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, just like Boomer was saying, it was a culture shock coming back here. I was culture shocked getting there. Our band loves like Taco Bell and all that nasty stuff for you. So when I got there and they were cooking this thing that I didn't know what it was and looked like it could crawl off the plate, for dinner, I ate it, and it was deceivingly delicious. But I'm still kind of like blown away by just how different the whole thing is. The lifestyle, the food, the roads, it's all just so different.
And Alan, you are not a bass player to my knowledge, but I know you play guitar because look at this guy.
Man, wow,
Jesus.
that's been a minute or two.
That's horrible. That's what that is. Thanks, Kevin.
Sorry, Alan.
Appreciate that. Yeah, my musical skill left with my hair all at the same time.
No, but you still play.
I do.
Or you started playing again, right?
Yeah. I sometimes I do some backing tracks for my podcast for If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. If I can't find something I think fits it, and come up with little pieces here and there. And then the thing I'm working on now is going through my buddy Moonshine Mike Stallings. He passed away last year, so I've been going through his music. He never got a chance to record an album, so I'm going through all of his live videos and pulling all the audio I can, running it through my programs, cleaning it up, and then adding little pieces here and there where I feel like there might be a little touch where you might be able to touch something up a little bit. So, and then eventually get those tracks over to his wife, and hopefully, she'll want to do something with them as far as putting them out and doing a record or something like that. So
it's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. There's just something about being able, and I did play bass in a couple of bands over the years, but basically you guys know this. If you're playing bass or you're playing guitar, or you're playing something with strings are strings. You can kind of play around and figure out something and get something going. So, like you guys, I'm sure at some point in time, if you were playing guitar, someone's like, oh, I need a bass player. Okay. That's what we're doing then. We're doing this bass thing. So, but I love playing music. Not great at it, but I love doing it. So
Same here.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, everybody, thank you very much for being on the show. I think we're in for a really good time, and we're going to start. We're almost 15 minutes in the show. We're not drinking yet, so that's a problem. We're
that's not true. I've been drinking.
Well, all right. So we've got to catch up with Alan now. So Nancy is going to tell us about this Joseph Magnus batch that she does, and tell us what Joseph Magnus does, what you do for them, and while you do that, the rest of us are going to sample this. And guys, this is sample B.
That's
sample B.
Okay. But this is, and I have to say, more recent batches I haven't been doing personally. I've handed that off to one of my mentees. But anyway, so Joseph Magnus was the original Joseph Magnus distillery was opened in 1892 and shuttered its stores at the beginning of Prohibition. So it's 1918. So when I first started working with them almost 11 years ago now, I was commissioned to recreate what that original 1892 or late 1900s whiskey tasted like. And on this one, so I'm the master blender, still there, but on this one, I was asked to make it as close to the 19th century version. And what I found was that the original distillery was actually using sherry cask for their bourbon back then. And that for me was kind of what gave me historical permission to use, to finish the bourbon as sherry cask. And I'm pretty sure that the original was not finished, but was probably spent its entire life in a sherry butt, at least just in the sample that I've tasted of it. So, and I still have some of that, or about a 200 mLs of the original 1892 whiskey down in my my basement. Wow. So anyway, that's what this is. Yeah, first thing off the nose, I'm missing the sherry influence that of what I originally created on it.
So I pick up on the nose on this. It's interesting. So I get some dark fruits on it, but it's more like a plum jam or plum jelly sort of thing. Yeah. And then like a toasted, like a heavy toasted graham cracker on the nose, which I really enjoy. It's pretty decadent just on the nose alone. So
thank you. Yeah, it's the color is lighter than what it usually picks up from the sherry casks. So I don't know if it hasn't been in there quite long enough, or the sherry casks are a little bit more exhausted. But I mean, it's not bad. It's just I'm just noticing a flavor drift from when I was the one actually blending it personally.
There's a little on the note on the palate. Sorry, I'll get my words out in a minute after I get past the sinus headache. On the palate, it lines up with the nose quite a bit for me, but there's also a really cool note on the back of this, and I pick this up in my whiskeys a lot, but almost like that. And it's real light here, but a little like mint / whorehound candy at the very, very finish. There's not a lot, but there's just a little bit just hanging out there.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Sure.
Brandon, any thoughts? What do you think?
How do I put it? I always do when I do the bourbon thing. It's always the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like the smell of this a lot. I don't know exactly what I'm smelling. I just know that it's pleasant to me. The beginning was good. The middle had a very kind of open feeling. I don't know how to explain that one. And then the end was good. It didn't linger too much. I know a lot of times I'm tasting bourbon, I'm just like, whoo, that's still there and it's not leaving, and it's,
Yeah.
Sometimes it just gets harsh the longer it sits there, but this felt good. I liked it.
Andrew, any thoughts?
I think it tastes great, and I hate them when they linger, like you're saying, and I feel like it goes quick. I feel like I can feel it in my chest a little bit after a smidge, but not in a bad way. I would have never guessed it had a sherry cask finish, though. It's very subtle if it's there. I'm trying to catch it now that you've mentioned it, and I don't know. I feel like it does have kind of like a sweet taste to it, but.
Yeah, it's got three. It has two sherry finishes. It has Oloroso and PX, and then a little bit of. Oh, sorry about that. My dog Brandy's going crazy out there. Also has just a little bit of a cognac finish to it, although that's not historically correct.
Mm-hmm.
The product, and it was something that when I originally formulated it, that I kind of felt like I needed to add a little bit of that to get a little closer to the original sample. But
That's interesting too, Nancy, because right in the middle of the palate on the finish, there's just a slight tiny, right after you get past that little mint note, there's a little bit of like structural, like minerality, tannin right at the center of the palate on that. I really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah.
That one will get me in trouble.
Yeah. I do get a little bit of the a red wine influence on the palate, and also pick up on some tobacco notes.
Well, at the next year, I'll be working with the team again to kind of get the product back on its true profile. Again, not that I think it's bad; it's just not what the kind of is close to the historical product.
So what this means is somebody's getting an ass chewing tomorrow at Joseph.
Oh, they've already gotten an ass chewing.
Nancy's coming to town.
Yeah. You better watch out.
You
better not pout.
She's kicking butt and playing bass, and she left her bass at the house. So watch out.
Rolling in hot, listening to Motorhead. Let's have this conversation.
Oh man.
No, I do like that a lot, Nancy, and I'll be interested to compare it to the batches that you'll be more involved with, hands-on with in the future, just to compare and contrast. But I do think this is really, really good. Are they distilling their own liquid there, or are they sourcing?
No. So when the distillery first started, they back in 2015, they were actually distilling their own liquid.
Okay.
But I didn't think it was very good, and it just didn't have much maturation potential, and it just didn't have it wasn't what I thought it should be. So I kind of made the executive decision, if you will, to source, because I'm pretty sure that the original distillery, which was in Cincinnati, was sourcing from what would have been, before it was the Seagram's plant, but the what we now know is Ross and Squibb, or
Right.
whatever, opened in 1857. So and it's just right downriver from Cincinnati too, right? So so just on some of the taste profile of the original is pretty similar. So anyway, that too kind of gave me historical permission just to source. I know a lot of distilleries source, but I kind of felt like I needed some history behind me, if that makes sense.
Sure.
to do it.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if that was sourced from the same place. I'm not asking because I'm presuming you can't disclose, but if that was sourced from the same place, really, really nice job with that for sure.
Yes, it was sourced from the same place. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's not on their profile at all.
Down the river.
No, that's the thing is what, hundreds of different brands sourced from MGP, Ross Squibb, whatever they want to call it these days. But to take that and to make it taste like something different than that, not that I'm saying that's bad, but if everybody's sourcing from there and everybody's whiskey tastes like that, okay, then what's the point? then you're buying a bottle or a label. You're not buying.
Also a very specific house profile that their whiskeys tend to have too, that carries across even when people source them and often blend them themselves. A lot of times you can still pick up that house profile that they have.
Right. Yeah, although there has been a bit of flavor drift, I've noticed ever since Greg Metz left. So I'm noticing, that profile is just ever changing a little bit. It's a little bit more almost like hops in a sense, a little bit more bubblegummy, or it's changed.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of that happened too whenever they switched everything over to digital a few years ago from the old panels that they had that are in the crazy room off to the side.
right.
Yeah. That nobody you can't walk in there now and anybody can tell you what they do. They're like, oh, I don't know what any of this does.
Yeah, that's definitely changed. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch over and talk a little bass guitar. And so we're gonna each have our list. We each have our lists of our 5 favorite bass players of all time, and that's 5 favorite. It may not be. We think these people are the 5 best, but these are the 5 that I like the most. So, Boomer, why don't you start us out? What's your number 5?
Number 5, and I hated to have to rank these. I really did.
It was hard, wasn't it?
But put this here, and I want this one. But I'm going to start out with one very influential for me is Tina Weymouth from Talking Heads.
Nice.
Look at there.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent choice.
How influential she was for me. But I heard, you listen to that bass line, you could hear it so clear. And it was back in the day when you'd have the turntable on and you could go left or right and you could hear the bass player left and
Yeah.
And I mean, she blew my mind flat out. Just I enjoyed listening to her. And the thing is, the older I get, the more I find myself going back to those old albums. And then you start getting into bass, and you're like, oh, you have to write a bass line that David Byrne's going to be okay with.
Right.
So now I'm getting headspace. I've been studying her this long, and I absolutely enjoy everything she does.
Any particular songs that you?
Oh my God! Wow, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Why not?
Man, I hate to say it, but I put in the live albums, and I sit there and just listen to the live albums.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's not one particular one that really stands out. I mean, you can do any of the hits, but I mean,
yeah.
I mean, a loaded question. That's going to take me forever. We're going to do that.
Yeah. Okay. We'll sit down and we'll put on Fear of Music and just talk about how great she is. Yeah.
Anybody wants? I mean, they've got a documentary coming out here soon too, also, which I just cannot wait for that. But but pop in one of the live albums and just sit back and enjoy.
I went to the theaters when it was re-released and saw Stop Making Sense.
Oh.
And that is so much fun.
Oh yeah.
It really, really is. And it really does showcase her pretty well, I think. It's not just the David Byrne show. I think that she shines in that as well. So, okay. Nancy, who's your number 5?
Yeah, so I obviously I'm not going to reveal the others yet, but I kind of broke it down into 2 categories. What I would kind of think of as melodic bass players and then lead bass players. So my 5th choice might be a little controversial, but I'm probably going to have to qualify it. Terry Kath era Peter Cetera, if you know what I'm saying. Not the sappy crap that came later with Chicago. I don't listen to that. But he was really influenced by James Jamerson and Paul McCartney and other more melodic bass players, and I never tire of listening to that old Chicago, beginnings and the
Chicago Transit Authority album.
Yes, right? Yeah, absolutely. And he did so many cool things. That was part of actually what made me want to play bass. Too. I like that melodic style.
Yeah. It's a lot like, to me, Chicago is a lot like Fleetwood Mac. If you say, "Oh, I'm a fan of Chicago," okay, then go back to 1976 and listen to that. Tell me what you think. Oh, I love Fleetwood Mac. Okay, then let's go back to Peter Green era.
Peter Green.
Fleetwood Mac, and tell me what you think then. The both of those bands, not to get off on that tangent, but both of those bands changed significantly to achieve popular success. But I agree. I think you go back and you listen to those really early Chicago albums. He's very, very good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Love
Yeah.
that stuff.
Andrew, what's your 5?
My 5 is Cliff Burton.
Yes.
Put him. If it wasn't the hair that sold me, it was how he played that damn thing too. But I still to this day find myself trying to obviously not replicate, but I've picked and choose quite a bit from his plethora of stuff, I think. But I know he's kind of an obvious, but I don't, whatever.
How many wah pedals? Come on, man.
Yeah, right. I think that's what got me to get a wah pedal was that.
It's also not allowed to be an auto wah. It has to be a true wah pedal.
The true wah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there metal in your playing background? Because your current band is not a metal band by any means, but
absolutely. I think it's funny to think about metal in that light because I think the first time that phrase was used was in like Born to Be Wild, which is like totally not a metal song anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure the phrase heavy metal came from that heavy metal son, that line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like I guess in a way the very like grandfather root of metal, maybe there's a little bit of that in my catalog, but not it's just grown to such a massive genre with thousands of subgenres underneath it that are, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm metal, but in another light, maybe in a different world.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's a great choice. Cliff Burton, Metallica. Alan Bishop. Who's your 5?
So kind of like Nancy, I broke this down in a weird way. So not only people that influenced me, music being, used to influence whiskey production, spirits production, etc., but also from different sort of styles or eras that specifically influenced me. So 5 is honestly, it's a twofer, but it has to be a twofer because there's arguments that go on for days about who really started this. But Peter Hook from Joy Division and New Order.
Yeah, sure.
And even though he doesn't get credited as a bass player, he wrote most of the bass lines for the band. Robert Smith from The Cure.
Wow.
Those two on the same line for me are fantastic melodic bass players that can fill in space and carry the melody of fantastic songs. I think Dead Souls is a great example of Peter Hook being able to carry a song while the rest of the band just literally kind of fucks off, as they go. And then Fascination Street with The Cure is I'd love that bass line. Absolutely love it.
Oh, that's very cool. I like that. Man, going back to Joy Division, that's cool. Okay, my number 5 is Bernard Edwards, of most prominently from the band Chic. And let's see, I've got a picture of Bernard here somewhere. There we go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He just laid down some incredible bass lines. He also played with Diana Ross, and he was a producer. He played on some Duran Duran albums. He produced the Power Station albums. But Bernard Edwards, to me, is he just lays it down, and then other people sample it.
Yeah. It was him when they opened for Cher a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
They opened for Cher a couple years ago at the Yum Center. And
yeah, Chic did, but Bernard Edwards wasn't there because he's passed. But yeah, you could hear him. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Bass player they had playing, he did a very good job of recreating.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So we all had 5 different ones for our number 5. So we'll go through number 4, and then we'll maybe talk a little about what everybody picks. So, Brandon, let's go back to you. Who's your 4?
We already talked about him, Dusty Hill.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Dusty Hill was before I did that Tres Hombres album. Before we did that, he was probably way down in my 20 or 30 range, and we started doing that album, and I started deep diving him and his tone and the way he sounds and the way he. And I've said it before, and I love it, but he said that his bass tone is like a walrus farting in a garbage can. Has to fill in all those gaps. You've got Billy Gibbons with Pearly Gates and the whole. He has to do something that will make him stand out, something that'll push his tone out there. Yeah. And he got a wild rig. I mean, seriously, look it up. It's insane the way he made that bass sound. It's incredible the way he did it. And I tried to recreate it. I just did not have the money for that. So I did my best. But and plus the gallop, the way he would play, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Steve Harris from Iron Maiden, he does it, but in a metal style. Dusty Hill does it for the Southern blues rock thing, and it's a beautiful thing when you learn it. And now I can't stop doing it. So. Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very interesting. All right, Nancy, who's your 4?
So yeah, I've spent all weekend trying to go over this list, rearrange it and all. I think my second melodic player would be Dee Murray, who played with Elton John and those early albums and such. Benny and the Jets and all that stuff. I just really that really inspired me to want to play and kind of explore a little bit more of the melodic style. I love that he got great tone and love that.
Yeah. Very cool
stuff.
Yeah, you got to have something underneath that piano, right? I mean, everything Elton John does, that piano's on the forefront. Kind of like most everything ZZ Top does, Billy Gibbons' guitar is on the forefront. But you've got to have something behind it that's supporting it that is, excellent and can stand on its own too. So I like that. Andrew, what's number 4?
Number 4 for me, I don't really play like this style at all, but I love I picked Flea, and I did it because I think that was the first moment I realized the bass player can be the guy as well. Like, it doesn't have to just be a really cool singer and everyone around it, or a really cool guitar player or whatever. Yeah, him and Chad Smith have some of the just funkiest grooves. I think that Sex, Blood, Magic is like one of my favorites of all time. So he's, I wish I could pop more like him, but
Did you read his autobiography, Acid for the Children?
No, is it great?
It's fantastic. Yeah, I've actually read it twice now.
Yeah, I'll check it out because
yeah, it's a fantastic read. I mean, he's a really entertaining writer too. I find, he's just a really interesting guy. Besides, being a great, fantastic, brilliant bass player too. Yeah, you should check it out.
No, I definitely will. More levels to learn of that guy. I'm down. He hasn't disappointed me yet, so
Yeah.
Do the deep dive on his equipment. He is, meticulous on his stuff. It's insane how much he will tweak and how much he'll do just for one song. It's it's awesome. Just look it up. It's incredible.
Very cool.
Wow.
Alan Bishop, number 4.
All right, so I refuse to put Paul McCartney on this list, but I love melody.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to be the person that puts him on the list. But I also love metal. So I can split the difference with Peter Steele from Typo Negative. And
Oh,
it
wow.
works.
Wow.
So as Kevin knows, I'm a huge Typo Negative fan.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that the vast majority of Typo Negative was written on bass and that Peter Steele could pull that off. And not only on the metal side of things early on with Carnivore and then the early Typo Negative, but then going to the melodic stuff that was obviously on Bloody Kisses and October Rust and then World Coming Down, and then going back into that sort of in between on both sides for the last couple albums there. So definitely Peter and his sound. And that I think that's true of both Kenny Hickey and Peter Steele. When you hear them play, you know who you're listening to. So
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
There he is.
Oh yeah.
Nobody has that much fuzz on a bass.
no, and you guys were talking setups. Have you guys ever seen pictures of his pedal board? There's 3 pedals, and all the effects are literally silicone in place so that they never move.
He glued
Awesome.
Hermit Festival and at the song. It blew me away how monstrous the guy is just physically. I mean, he is just got a presence. But at the last song, right at the end, he picked up his bass, grabbed the strings, and ripped all 4 of them off. 4 of them. Like,
This sounds about right.
that's all you could do was just like, okay.
Right. Yep. Peter's having a bad night.
Oh, all right. I love that one. That's a very good one. My number 4 is Les Claypool. Of
Yes.
Primus.
Yep. Good choice.
I almost had him on mine. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for mentioning him, because I can now take him off mine and add somebody else I wanted to add.
Sure. Yeah, feel free. Feel free. But I think he is wildly entertaining and very inventive, creative with the way he plays the bass. He'll play 2 parts at once on the bass, and it's just fascinating to listen to, fascinating to watch. And he is actually the first guest on Geddy Lee's show. Let me see if I can find it here. Geddy Lee asked, "Are bass players human too?"
Such an amazing show. So
yes.
amazing.
I'm gonna check.
They
Paramount-
go fishing together like proper
Yes.
old men. It's great.
He's got Geddy Lee and construction equipment helping clear off land on his property. It's great. And, but I love Les Claypool. He did a band with
One.
Stuart Copeland and
Clam. What was it?
Oysterhead.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I the name of the guitarist eludes me right now, but
Buckethead, I thought.
I don't know.
But Buckethead was in on that, and he was in and out on Primus and a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he was ever a full-time member of anything.
No. But yeah, Claypool has a lot of different bands that he's involved with. Primus is, of course, the main one. But just
That Rush work.
yes, where they played Farewell to Kings. Yeah.
Beautiful. It was so good.
Yes. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. All right. So we've been through 5 and 4. We've had no duplication so far, which is kind of cool and kind of surprising. Any number 5s were Tina Weymouth, Peter Cetera, Cliff Burton, Peter Hook, Robert Smith, and Bernard Edwards. Any thoughts from you guys on any specific number 5s?
I could talk all day on bass players, trust me. We're just side. We'll have a little chat later on. So.
I do find it funny that I think that all 5 of those choices, were they in the same room playing together, they'd all look at each other and be like, "What the fuck?"
What are you doing?
Right?
That's true. Yeah. And then the number 4s were Dusty Hill, D. Murray, Flea, Peter Steele, and Les Claypool. Again, that's a very diverse group. Wow. Okay, so we've kind of been all over the place, but that's great. That shows the diversity of playing bass and the brilliance of what some of you guys do. So we'll get into more bass players shortly, but before we do that, let's pour the Hindostan. Is it Hindostan Falls? Is that the way people say it when they come in the tasting room? Hindostan?
It's Hindostan. I got to say it right because I'll get in trouble. So
Hindostan
Falls.
Hindostan Falls, and this will be
if you try to enunciate that. Those Martin County people, they don't like that.
Hindostan. It is sample C in your packs, ladies and gentlemen. So as we're pouring that, we'll take a little break from all of this, and I want you guys to be able to share a little bit about something you got going on. Alan Bishop, what you got going on?
Hopefully not a ton until the end of the year. I got a few things happening, but obviously still working on one piece at a time. Distilling Institute, and If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything is right in the middle of season 4. Some really cool stuff coming up on that. Mostly right now I'm sort of working on my third distilling related book, third and fourth really. Brian Cushing and I decided on the way to Virginia to Mount Vernon that since he was doing the Victorian barroom and I do, traditional distillation, why don't we do a book where he does Victorian cocktails and then I tell you how to make the spirits that are in them. So
that's cool.
That's
I
very
thought that'd
cool.
be kind of fun. So I've got my part of that done, and then we got Eric Wolf also to contribute rye whiskey from Pennsylvania to that book, and then Aiden Pemberton is going to do the cider portion of that book as well. So it won't be a very big book, but it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Next big thing is just sort of suiting up for Shriner Spirits launch at the beginning of the year. So my rye whiskey brand out of Louisville, and then getting ready for maple syrup season because I obviously need more things to do. So, I'm more excited about, and this is not a knock to any of my distillation stuff that I love to do. I'm more excited about maple syrup season than I am anything. I love that because nobody wants to come help. No one wants to be around. I get to be by myself. It's amazing. If I fall in the woods and break my leg, I'm going to die and be eaten by coyotes like a true Western hero, and I'm okay with it.
Oh, wow. And you can find Alan on Instagram at the Alchemist Cabinet. So be sure to check him out. Boomer, what's happening?
All right. Let's see. Sweet Lady World. We are in the studio at the moment because we out that we have been playing for like a year and a half, something like that, and we have the dang thing. We've got like 4 songs recorded, and we have at least 3 albums worth of songs written. And we've just been so busy, we haven't literally not gotten in the studio to put them down. So we've decided December and part of January, that's all we're doing. That's it.
Awesome.
So we've, purposely not booked a dang thing unless something big pops up. Otherwise, we're just like, we're going to sit in the studio and finish these dang albums.
Yeah.
And then after that, we've got, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin. I think we're heading up to Minneapolis.
Wow.
We're doing like we're going Indianapolis, Chicago, Rockford, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, St. Cloud, something like that. But yeah, it's that's going to be really fun. So
very cool.
And in February, we're going to Minnesota. So yeah.
Yeah. You may want to talk to your travel agent.
Got to put in for them now because they're in the summertime. So
Yeah.
Whatever awesome. Thunder does, that's what we're going to do. So.
And you can find everything about Sweet Lady on Instagram at Sweet Lady Band, and all their music's on Spotify. So be sure to check that out. Nancy, what's going on with you?
Yeah. So most immediately this week, I'll be blending the. I've got the Still Austin Blue Corn expression here, but I'll be blending the 4th Bottled and Bond Wyoming. Still Austin edition. It'll be the rye whiskey, 100% rye.
Awesome. Ooh.
That'll be fun. More out in the future. I've got after a 4-year absence, the Joseph Magnus Murray Hill Club special it will be coming out. This is it's a special edition of Murray Hill Club that I do, but the one coming out next year is going to be finished in Calvados cask, and there will also be the second edition of. I've been threatening to put this out for a number of years, but the second edition of Joseph Magnus Family Reserve, which will be a minimum of 17 to 22-year-old whiskeys or bourbons in there. Gosh, what else? I have some high end, something really high end, or like the highest end thing that we've done yet, coming out next fall at Still Austin. So it's taking more than a year for me to work on it. That'll be fun. I'm really excited about that, and yeah, just many whiskey projects. Looking these days, I look 3 or 4 years into the future, and kind of maybe 5 years, and think what I can create. What's coming down the road. So
awesome. Sounds like a big 2024 for you then.
Yeah, a woman's work is never done, as they say.
And you can find Nancy on Instagram at Nancy Fraley. So there you go. And I do want to say this right now. You named one of the cigar blend batches after our show, and that was so very kind and humbling, and just really do appreciate that. That was just very sweet.
My pleasure. After being away from it for about a year or so, I needed some help to come up with names, and that's I was thrilled to be able to name a batch after the show.
Well, thank you, Andrew. What's going on with you and Mojo Thunder?
So we just finished recording, so we'll have an album. Who knows when? Because now it comes the all finicky, like, oh, this is right, this is wrong. Let's add tambourine, all the little extras
right
at this point. Mm-hmm. But we're done with the hard grunt of it. So this year coming up will be our second album release. I think it's going to be good timing. I think we'll probably do like a baby tour around a couple of the states here, and then we'll also tour in Europe in like November, October era next year as well.
Okay. Awesome.
I think we have like kind of one big show last of the year for us. So in New Albany, the Enchanted Forest, we're doing a show there on New Year's Eve, and it should be a lot of fun. We're doing a lot of songs we've never released yet that we just finished recording, that I think we're excited to finally kind of let out the bag, change up what you do live.
Yep.
But no, it's looking like a really fun year for us. So I don't see how we'll not have a good time, Yeah.
At Mojo Thunder Official to track them on Instagram. A lot of good stuff posted there. And I will hang on a second. This is the first album, Hymns from the Electric Church, that I've got little autographs on here, so that was very cool. I love that. And then I've also have and I don't know if you can see the logo on it or not, but I have a Sweet Lady shot glass with their logo. So I'm repping you guys tonight.
Thank you.
Oh man! All right, so I appreciate everybody taking time to be with us here, because everybody is very busy. But hopefully you're having a good time, and we're just digging into it now. So, Alan, tell us about Hindostan Falls.
Yeah. So, Kevin, this was the single barrel version, right? Am I correct?
Yes, sir. This is, hang on, I'll give you. It is aged 4.5 years. It is 104.3 proof. It was a private release from the distillery.
So that would be the second year that we produce this. So, all right. So the basic premise of Hindostan Falls. So spirits of French lick, as I always say, is not just about the spirits in the bottle, but the spirits of the place. And the motto is respect the grain. The idea that grain has terroir or is affected by the land in the same way that grapes are. So most of my bourbons tend to be much more grain forward than what you're going to find on the market, despite the fact that we use full size barrels and larger barrels. These are all double pot distilled, number 2 char, alternative yeast, alternative grains. This one is 80%, most basic mash bill that we do, 80% corn, 10% rye, and 10% malt. But the corn is special because it's a corn named after the musician Amanda Palmer from the Dresden Dolls, just because that's who I happen to be listening to a lot at the time. It's a cross of 150 different heirloom open pollinated corns in what's called a land race, where we let them cross back and forth over years and years and years, and then selected for what we wanted, both agronomically and from a culinary sort of point of view, with the emphasis being on distillation. We could have very easily have released this as a corn whiskey, but then because we're in southern Indiana and we're right next to Kentucky, but we're on the quote unquote wrong side of the river, if we released it as a corn whiskey, no one would care. So we kind of had to make it into a bourbon, but really the rye is there and the malt is there just to say that they're there. And this particular single barrel, if I remember right, this is actually McCoy yeast that was gathered from one of the old pre-prohibition distilleries here in Orange County in southern Indiana. That closed down about 1914. And then this was actually no enzymes. So in the industry, a lot of distillers will use exogenous enzymes to get their conversion from starch to sugar. And there's nothing wrong with that, but malt does something entirely different. So these were very inefficient fermentations on purpose to hold on to that starchiness of the corn and bring that corn flavor across and really put the emphasis on the different colors of corn that are in there, specifically the blues, the reds, the purples that are high anthocyanin. And to me, they give a lot of kind of dark, fruity, jammy sort of profiles, kind of like blackberry jam or raspberry jam, something of that nature that comes across, but definitely still corn forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting, Alan. I was wondering when I first tasted it, I was really curious about the mash bill because I definitely get those. Like the anthocyanin type of corns and such, those higher protein corns, which are just, that's beautiful. I get a lot of like plum and like stewed prune kind of notes, a lot of kind of like grilled fig type of, I just really, really, really like that richness. And I think your cooperage choice of pairing with a char-2 really is perfect for this, because it really accentuates the grain and allows it to be seen, if that makes sense.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because
Oh, balanced. Yeah.
Funny that you said the plum thing too, because that's I usually, and I didn't mention it this time, but usually blood plum is like the first thing that I get off of it quite often. That kind of funky blood plum weirdness. So the Hindostan Falls thing I should mention this too, and I didn't. So that was a little town in southern Indiana in Martin County on the White River. There's a kind of a pull off there where you can go fishing now with a little waterfall, etc. The farm where we grow the corn at 30 acres each year is right there at Hindostan Falls. So it made sense to go with that. And again, Hindostan, not Hindostan. I got in trouble for that by Martin County people. So just want to let everyone know there's also a place that is spelled Syria, but it is called Syria.
Yes.
So
like Versailles, Versailles, and or Versailles. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Milan, Indiana.
Milan, yes.
Spelled like Milan.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Southern Indiana. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's that Hoosier mush mouth. That's what we got going on, man.
Andrew, what do you think of the Hindostan Falls?
I think it's great. I think this is something I would drink pretty consistently. I can't believe it's 104 proof. Did you say that?
Yeah.
I feel like it does not taste that, I don't know, that high of proof to me, which is awesome and a little dangerous. But
yes, it is.
No, I mean, I feel like I can taste a little bit of the malt just as soon as you said it. One of those things where I don't really taste it until some of the experts tell me something. Oh, wait, now that you say that, my tongue can. But I think it's a really good. I like this a lot.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Boomer, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was 104 proof either because I thought, man, this smells really sweet and it was smooth. It had a little bite to it, but yeah, that's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one was so our barrel entry proof is at 105 on these, so that's what we go into the barrel at. And typically, if this was in our inside warehouse, we would gain proof. But the cool thing about these all came from our outside rick house where we lose proof. And I'm actually lucky it was that high proof because a lot of these come out at like 98,
Wow.
99. So if I'm trying to do bottled and bond, I've got to be really, really specific with what barrels that I'm pulling. So
Yeah.
So there's no water at all added to that. That's just straight from the barrel as is at 104 proof. Tried to stay in that prohibition sort of thing as much as I could. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Yeah. No, I definitely get the plum. To me, it almost noses like a plum wine. And on the finish, I get a little honey smack cereal and hazelnut.
see that.
very
Yeah.
cool.
But hazelnut's kind of a common recurring note in a lot of your stuff, Alan. Is that a distillation technique? Is that a yeast thing, or what drives that?
The hazelnut in particular is mostly the 2-char barrel, like hazelnut and coconut. That's where that comes from. And then this also has it too, especially on the palate. A little bit of that horehound candy kind of menthol thing at the back. That's a yeast thing very much. So a lot of my yeast strains have that, and those are all POF positive yeast strains. So
Yeah. Well, you've made a lot of whiskeys that I love. This may be my favorite.
good. Hell yeah.
Yeah. It drinks older than it actually is too. I was kind of shocked when you said it's only 4 years old.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was so surprising to me.
I had, when we released this and we released the mainline version of it, because this is new for us this year, this product is, I had some 5-year stuff that's now coming up on 6. And at 5, it just wasn't working. At 4 and 4.5, it's fine. It's great. 5, it does not work. And coming around the 6, it turns into an entirely different animal that I can't wait to kind of put out there and see what people think of it. Much more, the tannic structure comes much more forward, obviously, but those fruit notes get super thick, almost head in that direction of like what Todd gets off the 3-chamber with the rye.
Really?
Those real heavy, oily, fruity notes. So
Yeah.
Well, this is fantastic, and congratulations on this. And the part of what makes this really special is you designed the corn strain that's used in this.
if that's not Indiana, nothing is.
No, that's next level. I don't think there are a lot of distillers in the world that can say that. So,
And
kudos to you.
that corn strain got perilously close to being gone forever one year too. It was literally down. I had 3 acres planted at one point in time on the farm, and it was down to about 17 stalks because the deer absolutely decimated it. So a couple more years, there'll be another whiskey out that uses a sister line to this that is called Elise corn, named after the Cure song, and it is Amanda Palmer, but it's completely a Flint corn. So
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Any other thoughts on Hindostan Falls? I've tripped myself up in how to pronounce it. I'm wanting to say like 3 different things, but Hindostan is correct.
Justin Whaley's going to see this and just be screaming at the screen. It's Hindostan.
Hindostan. All right. Anyway, whatever it's called, it's fantastic. However you say it, Well, that has been part 1 of our conversation with Nancy Fraley. Hope you've enjoyed that. We will have part 2 coming up next week. That would be January the 3rd. We appreciate Nancy obviously being here. She is just a wonderful guest and has become a really good friend to have. Alan Bishop, we thank him for joining us this week. And we also thank Boomer Purcell from the band Sweet Lady, their bass player, and Andrew Brockman from the band Mojo Thunder, who plays bass for them. We've had a fun time talking about some whiskey this week, some bass players this week, and we're going to do more of the same next week. Now, in the meantime, you can follow Nancy, Alan, Brandon, and Andrew all on Instagram. So be sure to check them out. As for our show, you can find us all these great places. You can watch the show on YouTube. You can listen on your favorite podcast platform, as long as it's Apple, Spotify, or Google. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we like to converse with you, our listeners, our like-minded brethren, where we can talk about the whiskeys that we're drinking and the music we're listening to while we're drinking it. So please join in the fun there. We also want to tell you, mark your calendars for a couple of things. One, this show is released on Wednesday, December 27th, on New Year's Eve at Enchanted Forest in New Albany, Indiana. Andrew and his band Mojo Thunder will be playing a special 2-set performance on New Year's Eve. So if you are in the area or make plans to come to the area, be sure to check that out. You can go to Enchanted Forest on Facebook, and you can find more ticket information there. It'll be a lot of fun. I'll be there. My wife will be there, so we'll have a good time. Hopefully we'll see you there too. And one more thing to tell you about. Put this on your calendar. Our 2023 Year in Review show will be live January 10th, 2024. So be sure to check that out. We will have a really good time with that. Drew and I will be telling you about our favorite things in whiskey and in music from the year that was 2023. It will be live 8 o'clock Eastern on January 10th. So be sure to join us. It'll be a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it. We'll see what Drew and I have in store for you. I think that we always bring you some things that are a little interesting, little maybe off the beaten path. So hopefully we can stretch our whiskey and musical palates together. So on behalf of Nancy, Alan, Andrew, and Brandon, we thank you for joining us. We look forward to you joining us next week when we continue this conversation on some various whiskeys and some of our favorite bass players. Until then, cheers, love, and free bird. Good night.